That's awesome. Welcome all to St. Juan Catholic Church. This is not Mass, so I'm not going to ask you to go through the psalm or anything. But if you do have any cell phones or anything that are on, please put them on vibrate or put them on silent so that they don't go off and disturb us. Welcome to the Lord's house. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get started here. We're going to get started here with some praising for the Lord. So I invite you, if you would like to, go ahead and stand up and join us with our opening song for tonight. Tonight's song is a song called The Lord's Prayer. One of the defining things about being Christian and being, Catholic, really, is this prayer that Jesus gave to us. And it's how to talk to the Father, right? The apostles asked, how do we pray? Teach us how to pray. And Jesus said, well, this is the best way, right? And from there and onward, we've had the Our Father. So this song is just that. It's the Lord's Prayer. And it goes something like this. We get the words up on the TVs. We'll just go through it really fast with you. This first part goes like this. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Because the kingdom of heaven starts in our hearts. So let's try that again. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Do that again. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Then give us this day. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive the ones who sin against us. Forgive them and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Let your kingdom come. So let's do that again. Give us this daily bread. Ready? Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive the ones who sin against us. Forgive them and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Let your kingdom come. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Again. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us as we forgive the ones who sin against us. Forgive them and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Let your kingdom come. It's yours, all yours. The kingdom, the power, the glory are yours. It's yours, all yours, forever and ever. The kingdom is yours. Again. It's yours, all yours. The kingdom, the power, the glory are yours. It's yours, all yours, forever and ever. The kingdom is yours. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. One more time. Father, let your kingdom come. Father, let your will be done on earth as in heaven, right here. on earth as in heaven, right here in my heart. So this next song, we're going to focus on something that is about giving priority to something that we ought to give priority to. So it's easy to be sidetracked with everything that's going on. Family, work, jobs, kids, grandkids. Well, I don't have kids or grandkids, but I know that a lot of you do. And that can take up a lot of time. Or just the anxieties and worries of day-to-day things, right? Or just, the world's always trying to sell us something, right? Always trying to sell us something. We're all aware of that. This song is about putting the first things first. We're going to teach you the chorus to this. So this goes like this. I don't want to love what the world loves. I don't want to chase what the world does. I only want you. I only want you. Sing that together. I don't want to love what the world loves. Sing that with us. I don't want to love what the world loves. I don't want to chase what the world does. I only want you. I only want you. And the next part goes like this. First things first, I seek your will, not my own. Surrender all my wants to you. Keep the first things first. To live your truth, walk your ways, set my eyes. Lord, I fix my face on you. All my desires reversed, to keep the first things first. So let's sing that together. First things first, okay? First things first, I seek your will, not my own. Surrender all my wants to you. To keep the first things first. To live your truth, walk your ways, set my eyes. Lord, I fix my face on you. All my desires reversed, to keep the first things first. You guys sound really good, by the way. I can hear you. You guys might think I can't hear you. That's a lie. I can hear you. All the things that I have held dear, the vanities that whispered in my ear, what would I do if they all disappeared? Riches and fame and all that they could buy, I've come to find they never satisfy. What would I gain if my soul's the prize? I don't want to love. I don't want to love what the world loves. I don't want to chase what the world does. I only want you. I only want you. First things first. First things first. I seek your will, not my own. Surrender all my wants to you. To keep the first things first. To live your truth, walk your ways, set my eyes. Lord, I fix my face on you. All my desires reversed, to keep the first things first. I give it all, my life an offering. My heart is yours, so have your way in me. Your kingdom's all I want to seek. I don't want to love. I don't want to love what the world loves. I don't want to chase what the world does. I only want you. I only want you. First things first, seek your will, not my own. Surrender all my wants to you.
keep the first things first, to live your truth, walk your ways, set my eyes, Lord, I fix my face on you. All my desires reversed, to keep the first things first, to keep the first things first. All my desires reversed, to keep the first things first. Oh, to keep the first things first. Oh, first things first, I seek your will, not my own. Surrender all my wants to you, to keep the first things first, to live your truth, walk your ways, set my eyes, Lord, I fix my face on you. All my desires reversed, to keep the first things first. Oh, to keep the first things first. Oh, to keep the first things first.
So now this time, I invite everybody to take a position that's comfortable for you, whether that be sitting down or sitting down. So when we keep the first things first, you know, it's all about faith. Tonight, Deacon Willie's going to talk all about faith, right? Our faith Camino. And the first things first, you know, keeping those first things first, that's one of the hardest things to do. The hardest thing to do is to have faith. We're all too well aware of that. I think everybody here knows exactly what I mean when I say it is not intuitive to have faith all the time, especially when things don't seem to pan out the way that we expect them, or God leads us down somewhere, or a path, or a Camino that we didn't see coming. Maybe something didn't pan out the way that we expected it to, and God brought us to somewhere different. But the reality is that faith is trust, right? We have to trust in God, because God is a good Father, and He doesn't lead us down a road of perdition. Doesn't mean the road's easy, but it is fulfilling. And the reality is that our souls thirst. If we really look at what it is that we desire that. We desire a God who loves us. We desire a God that we can put our trust in, a God that won't let us down. So we're going to meditate upon that as we sing this next song. Thousand stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night. You tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good Father. It's who you are, it's who you are, it's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am, it's who I am, it's who I am.
I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, because you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good Father.
It's who you are, It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, you're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
This is our identity. This is our identity. A good, good Father. That's who God is. And He is our Father. And our identity is found in Him. Why? Because our faith and our trust is in Him. And like the song says, you know, He's perfect in all of His ways. Whether we like it or not. He knows everything. One of my favorite scripture verses is actually from Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 55, where it says that, as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are the Lord's ways above ours. And kind of sums up that no matter how much we might try to reason God, we can't, because He's a mystery. And what we need to do is we need to accept that we need Him, okay?
Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest, and without you Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my song to rise to you when temptation comes my way, and when I cannot stand, I'll follow you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay, and when I cannot stand, I'll follow you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you.
Amen. Thank you so much, George and the music group. So tonight, I want to welcome a deacon of our Catholic faith of another diocese. He's from the Joliet Diocese, Joliet, Illinois, right? Is that right? Diocese of Joliet? Rockford. Oh, man, I got it wrong. Tried to memorize all this stuff and my brain kind of went, oh, Rockford Diocese, Rockford, Illinois. It's one of the suburbs of Chicago, and we want to welcome him. So a few years ago, I had this deacon walk up to me after Mass here at St. Juan Diego, and he said, "I wrote a book." And I said, "That's nice." He He said, I wrote a book on the Camino de Santiago. And I kind of went, well, that's really nice. Okay, now I'm listening. He said, I wrote a book, and I've been going around to parishes and talking about my experience of walking the Camino and the different things that I learned on the Camino. And I have to tell you, I love the Camino. Of my 27 years as a priest, one of my favorite experiences I could tell you is when we went to Spain. We went to Santiago de Compostela, which is, he'll tell you plenty about the journey and the walk. I can tell you that there's a video on YouTube of me in the church of Santiago de Compostela getting ready for Mass, and right before Mass, they take this incenser, and I have to say that it's more like a fire pit than an incenser. The thing's about that tall and about that wide, and they take scoops of incense, they light up this huge amount of charcoals, and they take this scoop of incense and they dump it into that after the fire has been lit, and they're getting ready to literally swing it back and forth, and I'm sure he'll explain that to you and maybe show you a video of it. It's amazing. I concelebrated Mass at the Church of Santiago de Compostela, the Church of St. James, where the body of the apostle James, the bones of James lie. And I got to take a big old scoop of incense and put it into the botafumeiro, which is this big incenser. And I got to stand back and think, and I could only think that I was just like a little kid in a candy store. I kind of went, and then I can say that I stepped back about 6 feet and was absolutely terrified, hoping that it didn't hit me as it went way up in the church. And I just kept stepping back, going, I hope that thing doesn't hit me, because it's an amazing experience. But Deacon Willie has some wonderful experiences to share with us, and I want to invite him up today. I was very, very pleased when he agreed to do our parish mission this Lent, and I want you all to just invite him up here and welcome him. We're going to say a little prayer. We're going to say a little prayer that the Lord would truly bless him and give him great and wonderful wisdom this night. Lord our God, we praise you and we worship you. We give you thanks for the many blessings. We ask that you give Deacon Willie a wonderful and profound gift of wisdom this night, so that he may share with us all of his spiritual insights, and the 3 nights of our mission may be richly blessed. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
God bless you.
Welcome. Welcome.
God bless you. That's my signal for the next slide. So I call this, We Are All Pilgrims, Lost and Found Along the Way. Because a pilgrim is on a journey to a holy place. And I like to think we're all on a journey to a holy place called heaven. And although I was on a pilgrimage to a place called Santiago, the place of St. James, we're all on a journey. And I'd like to share with you some of where I had been. So I have a favorite prayer that I'd like to share with you, and it's an excuse to have you meet my honey. So I'm going to invite my wife up here so that you'll get to meet her. And then I'm going to ask you to ask the person next to you if they would give you permission to put their hand on their shoulder. And then when you turn to them, say, hey, you sing real good.
You sing real good.
And then you can recite this prayer with me. Today I pray for you.
Today I pray for you.
A heart free of sadness.
A heart free of
A mind free of worries. A mind full of gladness. A body free of illness. And a day full of God's blessings. And if you know this person well enough, you get to do that. So I also cannot resist allowing you to meet my people. If you were at the children's mass, those adorable babes that brought up the gifts at St. Mary's were my grandchildren. They will be here at St. Mary's tomorrow. The little lamb on my lap is Clara, and we're praying our heart out for her. And I have a son that's not pictured there. He's in a chapter called Ad Majorem Dei Gloria, all for the greater glory of God. You can read about his story there. And unlike other missions or places you're at where they say, silence your cell phone, I'm going to invite you to keep your cell phone out. Because I'm going to guess you're going to hear something and you're going to go, oh, what was that idea again? And I found out you can text yourself. You can. And you'll come up with an idea. You go, oh, what was that? What was that he said? So if you have your phone out, you can text, and you have permission. If someone sees you using your phone, they won't go, what's with that guy? He's using his phone. So that will be convenient for you. Then there were some bookmarkers on your seat. And if you can't share one of those or can use the one on the screen, I am going to ask if you would indulge me and use your phone and scan that QR code so that you get a peek at my website. It has some videos there. It has the gallery of the Camino. So I'm encouraging you, just take 20 seconds. Let's do that right now. Would you either use the bookmarker QR code or point it to this QR code on the screen? And that will give you a chance to come back to it after the mission. You scroll down a little further under the menu bar that says Faith Stories, which is a new development in my ministry. I'm collecting faith story interviews with people, and the most recent is someone you would know. It's one of your very good deacons, Deacon Joe Ryan, shared his faith testimony, and we set up a little impromptu video recording of it, and we're going to hear that on Wednesday. It will bless you. So if you've looked at it, it'll be easy to go back to. So a couple little background terms and a little bit of history before I delve into it. So some common words. I'm going to ask you to say this. Say the word peregrino. One more time. Peregrino. Peregrino. That's a pilgrim. So people that are walking the Camino are peregrinos. And a very common expression. This is said over and over all through to people you meet and people you leave. You say, Buen Camino. Say it. Buen. Come on with some heart. Buen Camino. Okay. Something you'll hear is the trail for many ends at a city, a little village called Finisterre. Finisterre. And the Spanish in that is finish, meaning the end, and terre, land, the end of land. And consider it like the end of the world because it's a little fishing village right off the Atlantic Ocean. And when Jesus at the Ascension said, "Go and baptize to the end of the world," and some translations says the end of age, the end of the world. Well, here's the way it folds out in my thinking. So the person that went to the end of the world was St. James, and he had his kid brother, John, who stayed back with our mom because he was asked, Jesus gave him that commission at the crucifixion. He said, "John, behold your mother. Mother, behold your son." So his brother stayed with our mom. His older brother, James, and he's called James the Greater because he was taller. There was another James called James the Lesser, not that James. He's the one that wrote the epistle. James the Greater was one, he and his brother were whom Jesus called men of thunder. You've heard this expression, men of thunder. Well, I don't think there was anything timid about those two boys. And when Jesus said, "Go and baptize to the end of the world," there's a belief that James said, "I'm going to the end of the world. That's where, I'm going to go," because at that time in the first century, Finisterre was where the Druids, the fiercest pagans on the planet, were known to be. And they lived at the end of the world. So it would make sense when all of the apostles were on their way to different ends of to evangelize, where would a man of thunder go? Where the fiercest people were, to the end of the world. And he did. So the story behind this is James went to the end of the world. And there's some incorrect information that says that James walked the trail. He did not. He went by he did not go that way because he ended up by fishing boat all the way to the end of the world. There was a call to him, and there are many legends on how that call was delivered, and he knew he was to come back to Jerusalem. And that story picks up in Acts 12:2, and this is where my book picks up. It's James the Greater walking into Jerusalem, and all of the Jews are fierce about having him return to Jerusalem. And at the pleasure of the Jews, Herod Agrippa has him beheaded. That's right out of Scripture. Two of his disciples, Theodore and Athanasius, under cover of night, retrieved his body, wrapped it up, took it back to his place of ministry in Finisterre, and gave it a proper burial, completed his ministry, and each one died there. Why do we know that? Is because this body and his knowledge of him was lost for 800 years. The other apostles they found, but they could not find the apostle James until a little hermit by the name of Paleo was listening out in his little farmlet, and he heard a heavenly melody, and he saw starlight like shooting stars hitting the ground, and he went out to see it, and he scratched and pawed in the ground, and where the starlight hit, he found a gravesite, a stone that said, "Here lies James, apostle of Jesus, 44, and he knew he found the apostles' gravesite, then found Athanasia and Theodore. And with that, Paleo ran to his bishop, very excited. The bishop came, looked at it, and found this truly is the gravesite of James. Well, when they found that, they called it Compostela. Compo means ground, stella, star. So the name Saint El Camino, the walk of Santiago de Compostela, the field of stars. There's the story behind where that name came from. And at that time, others heard of it and they just stormed out of Europe. And wherever they left, they had to cross the Pyrenees Mountains, and that blazed the trail that other pilgrims followed and continued until they got to the gravesite. Eventually, the cathedral was built in 1075. So that was well before Columbus. That's when the cathedral was built, but they blazed a path that people had walked to get there. And once that had happened, it became the most popular pilgrimage of all Europe. Even more popular than pilgrimages to Rome. Even more popular than those going to the Holy Lands for periods of time. Millions walked it in the Middle Ages. Today, roughly 350,000 pilgrims walk it. And it all is by that inspiration of getting to the gravesite of Santiago. There is an element of secularism in it today, so I'm not going to claim it's only for spiritual reasons, because there are some that just like the physical challenge of it. But there is an undeniable spiritual element that comes walking and being in anticipation of it. So something else. So in the journey there, you need places to stay, and you stay at albergues. Say the word albergue. Okay, so those are hostels. That's where people stay. If you wanted to go as a pilgrim, you would stay at albergues. If you're going to go as a tourist, you would stay at little nicer places, and they'd be semi-private. That wasn't my style. I didn't mind. I mean, the room that you'd sleep in could be this size, and they'd be filled with bunk beds, snorers and all, and you would be with people from all over the planet. That was the most delightful part of it, as you could be with a person from New Zealand, and next one's from France, and another from Korea, and you're meeting people from all over. Can they speak the language? Many speak English. There's not much problem with that. There is some basic Spanish that would help you. What about meals? At each place that you stay, there is a Misa de Peregrino. There's a pilgrim mass, which is wonderful. I didn't understand much of the mass, but I knew the mass, and it was still a wonderful experience to have mass every day on the Camino. And then what do you eat? It's the menu de Peregrino. You're not going to have an American breakfast. You get up and you'll have a café con leche, very small, and maybe a little hard toast, and everyone's out of their bunk 6 a.m., rain, shine, snow. I don't care if you're tired or not, out you go. They clean everyone out, and you start walking, and then you stop at a little cafe. Such is the life of a pilgrim. And the struggles you have are part of what you offer up. The trail is clay and rock. That's what you walk on. The delight in it is, this is the delight for me, is that I was walking in God's creation hour by hour. The intimacy that I felt walking in His beautiful creation day after day. And then to meet people from all over, it's like the Olympics, you know, you're meeting people from all over the world. And everyone's trying to figure out life. They're trying to figure out how they can do life better for them. And there's a chance, maybe if I spend a little time with you and heard your story, maybe that'll help me understand my story better. Does that make sense? It absolutely happens all the way along. And there will be people that will have heartbreaking stories, and something in your story will help them, and vice versa. So why did I go on the Camino? Well, I never had it it was never on a bucket list. I never thought, oh, I can't wait for that day. I want to go walk 500 miles. Give me a chance, like hold me back. It never came on my thinking, never. And I wasn't a walker. I have to take you back to 2010, and you know, I was just still getting over grieving the loss of our 28-year-old son to a surprise heart attack. And I also the good Lord took me to a period of prayerful desolation. And if you know this, in the spiritual life, there are periods of consolation where you feel such intimacy with Him. You feel so connected. You think everything I'm doing is just really rewarding. And then there are times where God just seems to go AWOL. It's like, what happened? You know, I could be doing everything right. Going to Mass, praying, doing everything that was working for me, and all of a sudden, nothing. I get nothing from you. And I had that experience for 2 years. And I had a spiritual director who said, Willie, stay faithful, keep praying. And he said this word, push, just push. And push stands for pray until something happens. I didn't feel like it, but I did. Every day I'd pray and nothing. So day after day I prayed, and until, there's no magic to this, on March 23rd, 2012, my prayer time came to life, and I found myself in a vision of me on a clay trail, red poppies, fields of this yellow plant I learned was canola fields. I'd never seen canola fields. Fields and fields of those, grape arbors, snow-capped mountain peaks, glorious, beautiful place. And I saw an image of me, happy, very happy. And I spent a good deal of time saying, Lord, where have you taken me? What is this all about? And then took a little bit of time where I saw the connection of that scene and a movie called The Way. It's a wonderful movie done by Martin Sheen and his son Emilio, and it was Martin Sheen walking the Camino. And when I saw that, I had this realization, oh my word, 500 miles. I was carrying 40 more pounds than I had here. I'd never walked like that. I didn't speak Spanish. I went through a whole litany of, but Lord, you know, how about we just walk the neighborhood? You know, I'll be real good. We'll talk it out. You know, we'll be good. Not 500 miles. I never been to Europe like that. So we went on, and finally I just kind of wore myself out, and I had a period of silence, and I vividly recall what I think was him saying, "Have faith." 2 words. And I knew that was his call to me. And from that day, for the next 13 months, every time I was frightened, not certain, I held on to those 2 words, just have faith. They're still my rocket fuel for every lost moment. Okay, Willie, have faith, because it does pay off. And then people always ask me, they say, well, who'd you go with? Wait a minute, you didn't know anyone? You just went there by yourself? Who'd you walk with? What happened, I didn't realize what he had planned for me, because I met this man that you see seated there, and his wife. His name was Bishop Eric Pike from South Africa, an Anglican bishop, and I couldn't have chosen a more perfect walking partner. You see, his friend that he did ministry with was a man named Desmond Tutu. And he had a personal friend that he walked with and would just pop in at the house and like leave flowers for his wife. His name was Nelson Mandela. That was his personal friend. And Bishop Pike, who I refer to as the good bishop, because he had much of the nature of Nelson. And he spoke in this kind of gentle tone. Willie, do you think it'd be okay if we give each other the gift of silence in the morning? Oh, yes. I'm more of a contemplative. I love silence. I love it. So the morning we would have all of this contemplative time, and inside of my head, I was praying like this. Lord, that was a wonderful place you sent me to this day. I got to see all of those people, and it was a wonderful time we had together, and thank you for the beautiful sunrise. You know, I was having that kind of time. And then later in the afternoon, he was 6'5", and I ain't. So he would saunter up next to me and he'd say, Willie, have you ever considered the imagery in John's gospel? No, but I'm really eager to. And he'd say, Judas left Jesus and went into the night. And Nicodemus left in the night to come to Jesus. One was leaving the light and going into darkness, and one left the light to go into darkness. Have you considered how John uses that imagery? No, I hadn't. And then that's how our conversations evolved. It was absolutely wonderful. And that continued all the way to Santiago. We became the dearest of friends. He was going to walk with me in 2015, but leukemia caught him, and today I'm convinced he's in heaven, so we lost him in that. But I'd like to give you a look at what the trail looks like. I had this video prepared, and I'd like to share it with you.
At age 62, I walked the Camino de Santiago. The trail starts in southern France and on day one climbs 5,000 feet over the Pyrenees Mountains and then into Spain for 500 miles to the coast. Call me crazier. I walked it 2.5 times, a total of 1,200 miles, and people ask me, why? Why would you walk that? Flashback to 2010. I was struggling with the grief and loss of my 28-year-old son to a surprise heart attack. I was lost. Day after day for nearly 2 years, I pushed forward, but my prayers felt like they bounced off the ceiling and got nothing out of it. I wanted to quit. On March 23rd, 2012, everything changed. I woke to push through another morning prayer time when I recognized a different connection. It felt alive. And I was presented with an image. I saw a clay trail skirted with red poppies, tall green barley grasses, and acres of canola fields. Far in the background were snow-capped mountain peaks. More surprisingly, there was an image of me on the trail, and I looked happy. The realization stunned me. Lord, are you calling me to walk this pilgrimage? How would I do this, Lord? 2 words thundered in my soul. Have faith.
I had 34 days of listening to Jesus tell me, I love you. And what God did along the way are miracles.
God pressed it upon me to share the spiritual insights that God placed upon my heart while I walked the Camino. Hikers and adventurers will love the vivid descriptions of the trail, as well as the Camino's fascinating history and legends. Faith seekers will appreciate the spiritual insights that surface while doing a pilgrimage. And those who love a great story will be moved by the dramatic faith walk testimonies of each chapter.
So why did I write the book? It's because this has been part of my ministry too, and retreats that I have led, but especially while I was walking, this is also called The Way. While I walked, there were stories in my faith journey and stories that I heard of others' faith story that had a tremendous impact on me. And I came to realize how important our stories are. Those are my core values, and here's what I'm encouraging out of these next 3 days is to hope that you will come to believe everyone has a story. My friends, every one of you has a story. God is in that story. He might be buried in some kind of doubt or confusion, but God is in your story. And your story is today's parable. It's the story that can help someone else. And what I'd like to encourage people to do is to start sharing their story. There's many of people who are struggling with of someone they know who has just walked away from their faith. And that you can try and convince them with books off of a bookshelf that would talk about evangelization. I tend to believe it's something as simple as just tell what God has done in your life. Tell the beauty of what He has done through the tough stuff, and let that be the testimony. That's where the parable comes from. And so how did I write the book? Well, it came from the way people ask me about the Camino. I mean, if you walk 1,200 miles, they want to know, well, what did you see? That's the Camino. Where did you go? The Camino. My Camino, like, what did you get out of it? That's my Camino. And then they don't actually say it, but I know they're thinking, what can I get out of it? It's like, okay, Deacon Willie, good for you, but I'm not going to walk 500 miles. So what could I get out of it? That's our Camino. So when I wrote the book, I talk about the geography and history. That's the Camino. If you were evangelizing or sharing your story, the geography would be like, where were you at in your life at that given period of time? What's a little bit of your history, your personal history? Are you seeing the parallel? My Camino. How did you communicate with God? What was God saying to you during that time in life? And then our Camino. Here's what I learned. Here's what I want to share with you. That's the pattern. And in these next couple days, I want to share some stories with you that you can see demonstrated on how you could imitate that, and sharing that with someone you think might benefit from it. You can also read that because I formatted my entire book in those 3 sections. So here's the first example. So I call this Melody story, but it was really for me. So prior to going, I had committed to prepare body, mind, and spirit. So for each day, I tried to do something body. I tried to lose weight, tried to do some strength training, tried to walk, core workout. So body, mind, I tried to learn about it. I read about the Camino. I watched YouTubes of other pilgrims to see what cities they walked through. I didn't want to be ignorant of what the trail was like and what you would see. And then that's the body, mind, and then spirit. I prayed my heart out for it. And I did that each night, but I found this one lady's YouTube so endearing. And back then, when I was training for it, Americans are, I'll use a harsh word, they're pretty ignorant of the Camino. They hadn't heard of it. And so only thing I had known about Melody is she was from America. But I loved her YouTube. The video, the soundtrack, the photos I loved them. And that was kind of my nighttime video. So my honey is an early morning, I'm a late night. And that was, I'd watch Melody's YouTube, and I would end with, Lord, if I could meet someone like Melody, I'd be so grateful. Someone from America that has walked the Camino, so I could learn something about it. That went on for day upon day, week upon week, month. There was no one that knew about the Camino. About a month before, I come home and she's listening, and I hear the soundtrack of Melodies. And she says, do you know who this is? I said, yes, I know who this is. And she said, I just talked to our old neighbor. That is her pastor. She lives 2.5 miles from here, and she wants to meet you. I spent a little, we arranged a time. We met at a coffee shop, and she said, kind of like, where are you going to start? And I said, in Saint Jean Petit Port, right at the southern end of the Pyrenees Mountains. She said, which trail are you going to take? Because there's a route that you can walk around the base of the mountain along the road to the first stop, or take the trail up over the mountains and down in. And I said, I'm going to walk around the base. I'm 62 years old. I don't want to burn myself out on day one. And she did one of these things. I said, why wouldn't I want to do that? Why wouldn't I want to save myself? Here's our first lesson about faith. You don't know how faithful God is until you have nothing but Him. Think about that. Going over the top of that mountain, I would have nothing. There'd be no rescue for me. The only thing I had was Him. I had no plan B. And that taught me something, is to, when you surrender yourself completely, and it isn't so much like when you agree to do something a little riskier, is that when you're doing that, you're saying to Lord, here's your opportunity to be faithful to me. And most of the time when I get into those risky things, I'm going, oh, Lord, give me faith. I hope I have enough faith. Lord, give me more faith so that I can do this. Lord, demonstrate your faithfulness to me, because He wishes to do that, to show that He is a faithful God. And He did. I got to the top of those Pyrenees Mountains, and on my great luck, it was the coldest, windiest day on the Camino. Cold and windier than in the last 60 years. And the wind was so strong that my clothes were like a sail, and I could not hold my poles. And just out of a chance, I decided to see if I could fall face forward, and so I did. I just let myself try and fall face forward, and the wind levitated me. I was fighting the winds to get up. And was it difficult? Yes. But Melody's story was true. God just wants to show that He's a faithful God. And He did. He did show that to me. So another story. So this was at a place where it's just past Pamplona, and you'll remember Pamplona because it's where the running of the bulls is, and this was no time near the running of the bulls. But the height of this mountain range is about 1,200 feet. If you were in Chicago, you'd know it's about the height of the Willis Tower, formerly called the Sears Tower. So it's about that height. And you're 1 mile from it when you start the ascent. And right after we passed the Pyrenees, the rains came, and the rains were punishing. And we made it through the rains, but when we got to this mountain range that morning, the rains were just fire cracking off of I wore a sun hat, and that kept the rain off me. And the name of this mountain was called the Mountain of Forgiveness, Alto de Perdón, the Mountain of Forgiveness. And I'm walking up the trail back and forth, and I was trying to occupy myself, trying not to obsess over the rain. And I'm going back and forth. I make it all the way to the top. And oh, how glorious. I make it. But rain goes fast downhill. And I get to the backside of that, and the rain had washed away the trail. I got to that backside of it, and there was a sheer drop of just over 8 feet. I came up on that trail, and I looked at it, I can't get down here. I thought maybe I could get on my bottom and slide down. There's no way. I can't do it. The good bishop comes up alongside me, and he looks at it and he says, Willie, we must go down. He's 6'5". I was like, I can't do this. I know that if where the trail went down, it intersected the trail that was going to continue. And where that trail intersected, there was a 1,200-foot drop down into the thickets below. I just imagine myself being I'm Italian, my little Italian body, a meatball, going, just racing down that thing. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't do it, I can't do it. He comes alongside of me, and there was a thicket of shrubbery. They were aster bushes. I'm not sure if you have them out here in the desert, but they're thick, stiff-bristled shrubs with thorns on them. And these shrubbery, they were short like this, but he just went right alongside of it, and he put out his big old long leg, and he got down there, and he stomped down one little pad, and then put out another big foot and stomped it down, made his way all the way down to the intersection. And he looked up at me and he said, Willie, we must go down. I looked at that. I was terrified. I looked at it. I can't do it. I had never been so frightened. And I stood up on that mountain ledge, and I said, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I have never been this frightened before. And I heard him whisper, have faith. I took that seriously, and to this day, I can picture my hiking boot in midair, and I took a flying leap right off that ledge, came down on one foot into his, and I did one of these gymnast mounts, stopped there, my poles were spinning, and I looked, Lord, you saved me. A leap in faith. It's a trust that I put into him, that another leap, another leap, another leap. When I got down there, I thought, it took just believing that he was there for me. I had nothing but him, and he was faithful. And then from that, we had gone back up and helped the ladies back down. You're going to see in the next slide, it's a blurry picture, but it'll give you an idea of what the elevation, what the grade of that was. That's me in the orange backpack on the bottom, and we're helping the ladies down that grade. Someone witnessed it and took a snapshot and sent it to me, and that was it. So what's something for our Camino? And that is like to spend a little time thinking of what's on your trust meter. If you had to look at your trust, how trusting, what level of risk are you willing to give our Lord? in some challenges in your life. Like I described this in one of the chapters in my book. If you say, well, what color would you call trust? And I'd say, well, you might call it blue, but if you looked at a seascape, you'd say, well, okay, it's all blue. But if you were playing it safe, I'd be near the shore, and that'd be a lighter blue, and that's the safe trust. And the deeper I went out into the blue, that's a greater trust. And I might look and say, well, if I believe I'm supposed to trust God more, how do I do that? And that would be to just give yourself into a more, what you would call a risk. Give yourself more to what God can do. More, I like to use the word uncomfortable. Be a little more uncomfortable when you're trusting Him. Not to play it as safe. Melody's advice really holds true there, is that if I can surrender more to Him and be a little less in control, I have given Him room, permission to grow my faith. Then this next story, oh my word, everyone loves this story. So the Camino is considered to have 4 stages to it. There are those that think, I want to go on the Camino. You know, they picture themselves there. That's the pre-Camino. They're doing the body, mind, and spirit. I'm kind of connecting, thinking, yeah, I want to try this thing. That's the first stage. The next is when you're there. And when you start off, it is brutally physical. Can you do it? Absolutely. But it is physical. The daily grind of it is difficult. Not to overshadow that it is blessed, but it is just by fact physical. Then there's a period, a stretch of the Camino that is emotional. It's sentimental. It has a pretty level stretch to it. Most of it is the meseta, a level playing field. And things tend to strike you sentimentally. Like I got to it and I would pass a fruit stand and I'd see strawberries and I go, oh, my grandson, my grandchildren like strawberries and I'm missing them and I don't really like to see the strawberries, you know, just because now you've had this letdown and you're easily emotional over things. And then the last section is spiritual as you're getting closer to it. Well, on this particular day, I'm just entering the emotional, sentimental stage. And prior to each of my Caminos, I wanted to spend some time with our mom. So my first trip, I was at Lourdes. I ended in Fatima, and another I went to Medjugorje. And when I was at Medjugorje, I had a bottle of water that fit perfectly in my shirt. And that's what I used to drink from. So I carried it to all the holy shrines there, and I carried it while I was walking. Well, on this particular day, it was out near a place called Belorado. And at this particular place, although it was mostly level, there were 2 camel humps of hills. You climb up one, it was about 600-foot climb. Then it came down 100, and it came back up to the next hillside. And there was a picnic area there. It was a hot day, about 85 degrees, and the sun in Spain, because you're closer to the equator, the sun just cooks you. So this side of me was really warm, and I was really overheated. So I stay up there, and I'm resting, had my boots all cooled down, and these 2 Canadian couples come. And this is the delightful part of the Camino. It's like, hey, where you from? Chicagoland. Hey, where did you start? You tell them where you start, and eventually it's like, well, why are you on the Camino? And I always go, eh. And then they tell their story, and we have a nice visit. Well, it was time for me to go. I pack up my say, Buen Camino, and off I go. I'm walking down this steep 600-foot drop, and I dropped a hiking pole. I bent down to pick it up, and I realized I did not zip the top pouch. All this gear is rolling down the hill. I'm throw off my pack. I'm running, trying to get things out of the ravine. Pull it back together. I get all the way back down there, and my water bottle's gone. Oh, Lord, that's my favorite water bottle. And I had that, with our mom, and I really want my water bottle. Well, I decide I'm going to walk all the way back up and see if I can find that water bottle. I'm looking on both sides of it. No chance of it. I can't find it. I get all the way back up to the top of that thing. There was nothing. And I have this moment, and I said, Lord, I have obsessed over things in my life, and I don't want to have a thing be more important than you. And I'm going to free myself of doing that, and I'm not going to worry about a stupid water bottle, because you're more important than a water bottle to me. And I can't tell, I felt liberated. So I decided I feel free and light over it, and I head back down the hill, and I'm thinking, oh Lord, what a spiritual freedom I have. I'm walking, I get all the way back down the trail, I hit the level pavement, and I'm walking. I get about an hour in it, and I go, I don't have a water bottle. I'm free, but I sure am thirsty. I continue for a while, and I go, my tongue feels like it's almost glued to my ruff, and I'm feeling my skin is getting prickly, and I'm seeing little white flashes, and I'm thinking, okay, Lord, you've freed me of this obsession, but I'm in desperate state. So Lord, I'm asking you, please help me. I desperately need some water. Well, I looked ahead, there was nothing. Town was far away, there was no one behind me. So I put my head down, and I continued walking and walking. I looked up once, and I saw a cloud of clay dust roaring in my direction. It had a gray minivan in front of it. Here's what's amazing. There are no vehicles on the Camino. The trail is about this wide. And I looked at it and I went, there are no vehicles on the Camino. This minivan is roaring in my direction. It comes to me. I skirt to the side, and a stubbly-faced Spaniard drops the passenger window, holds out a cold bottle of water, smiled at me, and left. That, my friends, is what we call a Godcidence. A Godcidence. It's a coincidence that came right when you prayed, and God came and fulfilled it. That moment in my Camino showed me how God really does hear our prayers. He does answer our prayers at His timing. And I take no credit for the word, but Lorraine Nunley came up with it. And she says, it's a circumstance that looks like a coincidence, but it's obviously a God thing. Have you think back on events in your life where God He came through right at the right time, and you go, that was God. I love this one. Sometimes I just look up and smile and say, I know that was you, God, because He is. He does show up. That is the bottle. You can see it. And if this is just my creativity gone wild. So if I wanted to have God's events, if I wanted to have those, because then I really have to believe that God is present, that He is nearby. And we know that by faith, don't we? That God is not only omnipotent, but He is omnipresent, that God is everywhere. It's us that are not attentive to it, that God is everywhere. Well, in a God sense, we just all of a sudden recognized it. So where might I look if I wanted to become more in tune? So these are some I mention in my book. I give some examples of that. But many people will say God in nature. You know, many people say when they get in God's creation, they go, oh, I can feel God's presence in a mountain landscape, a lake, a ocean, in silence. You know, when I finally quiet the kindergartner down inside of me and I settle myself, oh, like God is there. Well, He was always there. We just quieted ourselves down. And sometimes you recognize someone being outrageously kind, and you say, I can see Christ in that person. That seeing that just builds our faith. So last story, this does have a short video. So the lady on the left, good friend of mine, who went to college with this lady, and she, Kathleen on the right, Eileen on the left, they were good friends. Kathleen had found she had cancer. And the only way that she would be saved if she were to get a liver transplant. And her friend, Eileen, also my friend, had a walk with her husband, and she heard God say to her, if you say yes, I'll make you the perfect match. And that perfect match saved her friend's life. This is a very short video.
Deacon Willie here with Lost and Found Along the Way. In Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, verse 23, Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me. Today we're going to look at the crosses that we carry. They're big things, difficult things. They can involve challenges with our health, our relationships, or perhaps even the demons that we fight. They're heavy and they have a great deal of weight to them. But there's another element to our crosses that we carry, and it's the wait time before God answers them. We could pray days, weeks, months, even years waiting for an answer. In this video, we will hear the faith story of two friends who have shared a precious gift, the donation of a donor's liver. Their crosses and the weight they carry became a matter of life or death. Their story will bless you. Welcome, Kathleen and Eileen.
Hi.
Let's get to know you a little better. Kathleen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a married mother. I have two kids. They're both teenagers. One's 18 and one's 15. live in Chicago, and I'm a physical therapist. I work with babies in their home. I haven't been working now for a little while, but I'm looking forward to getting back to that. And yeah, I've had some hard times recently and some really good times too.
Oh, well, wonderful having you. Eileen, help us get to know you a little better.
Sure. Hello. My name's Eileen, and I am married with 2 boys and a lovely daughter-in-law. My work is in the area of information technology, and I have been a friend of Kathleen's for a very long time.
I wanted to mention something. When I was talking about my girls, they made our T-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
They designed these T-shirts.
Oh, that's darling. Wonderful.
And the whole medical team that was working with us also has similar T-shirts. So.
Oh.
2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it was already stage 4 because it was in my colon, but it had already spread to my liver. Luckily, it didn't spread anywhere else, like in my lymph nodes or anywhere. And so I had surgery on my colon at that time, and then started chemotherapy after that. So I've been on chemo a little less than 2.5 years. I had a good response to chemo. Some shrunk, some of them stayed stable, nothing grew. So that was good, but it's still the long-term outcome wasn't going to be long-term. So, I looked for some other options. There really were none, pretty much. They said I would never be a candidate for having liver surgery. And another procedure that I tried to get, ended or was cut short because I had a complication, so I wasn't able to have that. It was just horrible. And so that's when I was pretty devastated, and that's when we decided to really, try to make the transplant happen. From the very beginning, when I was diagnosed, one of my sisters said, "Oh, you can have my liver." And so I told my oncologist, and I think he thought he was just like, okay. He's thinking like that's, it's so rare, it hardly ever happens because it's a newer thing in the United States. But, we stayed focused, and it luckily ended up happening. So that's, I think, the majority of my health history. Otherwise, I'm pretty healthy.
I was thinking it would have been so great if Kathleen's nephew could have done this. If I'm being honest, that was my honest reaction. But knowing that I met the basic criteria, one of a few, I kept thinking about it, praying about it, walking along, doing these hikes. And I had a moment where I really felt that it was God's voice who said, if you step forward, I will choose you. And that was really big, but I heard it clearly when I was doing this hike. And so at the end of the hike, I turned to my husband, this wonderful man, and I said, I think I need to do this. And his response was immediate, of course you do. And so I knew he was with me 100% right from the start. One of the scripture verses that went through my mind as I was discerning was Ephesians 2:10, and that really has to do with, how God created us for a life of good deeds, which he has already prepared for us. And so even from the start, I'm like, well, I guess this is the one that you prepared for me. And so the advice that I would give is that we are all created to help one another, to help by giving, to help by asking and receiving, because we give and receive to each other.
What I really would like to say is how grateful I am for everything Eileen's done for my family and I, and I don't think that I would be here if it wasn't for her.
No, we're almost like an old married couple. I don't know. She likes to say she keeps me right near her heart.
Right.
I love that. I love that.
The expression of love on Kathleen's face to be saved like that. Part of her faith story was that there was a long period of testing, and Kathleen had, this isn't the right language, but the shelf life makes sense. She had a small window before the window would close, and what complicated matters too is that the insurance got involved and decided they weren't going to support it, and it got right down to the end. And and Eileen's yes became the perfect match at just the right amount of time. And talk about that trust meter. She had to trust that she was going to come out of that healthy after giving her liver. And I didn't know this, but your liver regenerates. And she went in there thinking, I'm only going to have a third of a liver the rest of my life. So she went in there that trusting. She had that kind of faith. What an inspiration. Kathleen thought, I'll never see my daughter's high school graduation, and her friends saved her from that. So if you say yes, sometimes we think like, Lord, you're going to give me the direction, but sometimes it's us saying yes that produces the faith. You know, we keep hoping God's going to do something for us, but sometimes it's us saying yes in advance. And the power of prayer overcomes the obstacles. We tend to think I just have to wait for him to just do it for me, but sometimes we have to take the initiative in it. And then there's, this was a powerful message, because sometimes when we're going through a hard thing, we just like, I don't want other people to be bothered. I don't want them to worry about it. You know, I'll just do it myself. You know, I'll just suffer on my own. I'll just take care of it myself. And then people want to love you. And that's what she said. She had to let herself be loved. I think that was a good message, because people want to reach out and show love. I'm going to offer you an opportunity tomorrow night at St. Mary's to take a strong look at the virtue of hope, the theological virtue of hope, and see examples of how people have grown in hope, and some examples of what happened on my Camino that grew my understanding of hope. And with that, I invite you to come back tomorrow, and I thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you. Idea struck you, you can send yourself a text, and we have books in the back, and by the good luck of the publisher that misprinted some, I have buy one, get one free. So.